In the vast, silent theater of the Gulf War, where sand met sky in an unending canvas of beige and blue, the whispers of history often materialized as the shrieks of jet engines. January 19, 1991, a date etched into the annals of aerial combat, not merely for the clash of advanced machinery, but for the raw human drama that unfolded thousands of feet above the unforgiving desert floor. This was no ordinary engagement. This was the iconic MiG-29 versus F-15 dogfight, a legendary aerial ballet of death, precision, and unyielding will. Our story converges on Captain Cesar Rico Rodriguez, an F-15C Eagle pilot, a man forged in the crucible of American air superiority doctrine, now hurtling into a deadly ambush. His adversaries, skilled Iraqi pilots flying the formidable MiG-29 Fulcrums, Soviet-designed interceptors built for a different kind of war. This was more than just a battle. It was a testament to pilot skill, the unforgiving demands of training, and the sharp technological rivalry that defined the Cold War and now spilled into the sands of the Middle East. This narrative delves deep into that encounter, breathing life into every critical moment, from the distant blip on a radar screen to the searing flash of a missile impact. We examine the intricate dance of radar maneuvers, the split-second decisions that swung the pendulum between life and death, and the sheer visceral courage required to fly at the edge of the envelope. It is a story not just of metal and fire, but of the men behind the machines, their fears, their hopes, and their unwavering determination in the face of absolute peril. The Gulf War, officially known as Operation Desert Storm, had ignited just 2 days prior, on January 17, 1991. The world watched, captivated and apprehensive, as a vast coalition of nations led by the United States launched a massive air campaign against Iraq. Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait in August 1990 had shattered the delicate geopolitical balance of the Middle East, drawing a line in the sand that the international community would not allow to be crossed. The stakes were immense: regional stability, global oil supplies, and the very credibility of international law. The opening salvos of Desert Storm were designed to achieve overwhelming air superiority. Coalition planners knew that controlling the skies was paramount to protecting ground forces and dismantling Iraq's military machine. Against this backdrop, the air forces involved represented a microcosm of global military power. On one side, the technologically advanced, doctrine-driven air arms of the United States and its allies. On the other, the Iraqi Air Force, equipped predominantly with Soviet bloc aircraft, hardened by years of war with Iran, and led by pilots who, though often lacking the cutting-edge technology of their adversaries, were certainly not without skill or courage. The Iraqi Air Force, at the outset of the conflict, was a considerable force on paper. It boasted hundreds of combat aircraft, including a significant number of Soviet-designed MiG-29 Fulcrums, MiG-23 Floggers, and French-built Mirage F-1s. The MiG-29 in particular was a point of concern for coalition planners. It was a potent, relatively modern fighter designed as a direct counter to Western aircraft like the F-16 and F-15. Its agility, powerful engines, and a formidable short-range missile, the R-73, gave it a fearsome reputation in close-quarters combat. Iraqi pilots, many with combat experience from the Iran-Iraq War, were expected to mount a fierce defense of their airspace. The world held its breath, wondering if the predictions of a costly air war would materialize. Conversely, the coalition Air Force brought to bear the absolute pinnacle of Western aerospace technology. At the spearhead of this formidable force was the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. Since its inception in the early 1970s, the F-15 had been designed with one singular purpose: to achieve and maintain air superiority. Its motto, "Not a pound for air to ground," underscored its specialized role as a purebred air-to-air fighter. The F-15C, the version flown by Captain Rodriguez, represented the most advanced iteration of this lethal machine. It was faster, climbed higher, and possessed a more sophisticated radar and avionics suite than almost any other fighter in the world. Its presence in the skies over Iraq was a clear declaration of intent: the coalition would own the air. For the United States Air Force, air superiority was not merely a desirable outcome, it was a foundational doctrine. The F-15 Eagle was the embodiment of this philosophy. Developed in response to the perceived threat of advanced Soviet fighters like the MiG-25 and MiG-23, the F-15 was engineered for unparalleled performance. Its twin Pratt & Whitney F-100 engines provided immense thrust, allowing it to accelerate rapidly and sustain supersonic speeds. Its large wing area contributed to exceptional maneuverability, even at high altitudes and speeds. The F-15 wasn't just fast, it was nimble, capable of pulling high G-loads and engaging in complex aerial maneuvers that few other aircraft could replicate. The heart of the F-15's combat effectiveness lay in its AN/APG-63 radar system. This pulse Doppler radar was a marvel of its time, capable of detecting and tracking targets at long ranges, even in cluttered environments or against ground clutter. Crucially, it allowed the F-15 to engage targets beyond visual range, or BVR, a concept that fundamentally changed air combat. BVR combat transformed dogfighting from a knife-edge close-range affair into a strategic game of cat and mouse, where information and first-shot capability often dictated the outcome. The F-15's radar could track multiple targets simultaneously, prioritize threats, and guide its array of sophisticated missiles with deadly accuracy. Its primary BVR weapon was the AIM-7 Sparrow, a semi-active radar-guided missile. While often criticized for its reliability in previous conflicts, the versions deployed in Desert Storm had undergone significant improvements. For closer engagements, the F-15 carried the AIM-9 Sidewinder, an infrared-guided, heat-seeking missile renowned for its lethality in visual range combat. And for the most desperate of close-range encounters, a 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon capable of spewing 6,000 rounds per minute offered a last resort. The F-15 Eagle was, in every sense, a complete air superiority package. But the machine, however advanced, was only as effective as the pilot who commanded it. The training of an F-15 pilot was, and remains, an incredibly demanding and rigorous process. It required not only exceptional hand-eye coordination and spatial awareness, but also a profound understanding of aerodynamics, radar principles, tactics, and enemy capabilities. Hours upon hours were spent in simulators, rehearsing every conceivable scenario, from routine patrols to complex multi-bogey engagements. The training instilled discipline, quick thinking, and an unwavering commitment to the mission. Pilots were taught to manage their energy, to understand the bubble of their aircraft's performance, and to make life-or-death decisions in fractions of a second. Cesar Rico Rodriguez embodied this pinnacle of pilot training. He was not just a skilled aviator, he was a strategic thinker, a master of his craft. Years of relentless training, countless simulator hours, and real-world exercises had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. He understood the F-15 not merely as a collection of controls and displays, but as an extension of his own will, a machine that could execute his split-second commands with incredible precision. The psychological profile of an F-15 pilot like Rico was one of calm under pressure, an almost superhuman ability to process vast amounts of information, and an aggressive yet controlled demeanor. He was ready for the challenge. He had been preparing his entire adult life for moments exactly like the one that lay ahead. On the other side of the conflict, the MiG-29 Fulcrum represented the Soviet Union's answer to the F-15 and F-16. First introduced in the mid-1980s, it was a relatively new design at the time of the Gulf War, signifying a generational leap in Soviet fighter technology. Unlike the F-15, which was conceived as a pure air superiority fighter, the MiG-29 was designed for a broader role, often operating as a frontline interceptor and close support aircraft. Its design philosophy emphasized incredible agility and close-in combat prowess, capabilities often referred to as dogfighting. The Fulcrum's twin Klimov RD-33 turbofan engines provided impressive thrust-to-weight ratios, giving it exceptional agility and maneuverability. Its aerodynamic design, featuring large leading-edge root extensions, contributed to its legendary agility. In a close-range fight, particularly at lower speeds, the MiG-29 was a formidable adversary, capable of very tight turns and high angles of attack. It was equipped with a look-down, shoot-down radar, the NCOM Motin S-10 Seinsight Topaz, which, while capable, was generally considered less sophisticated and with shorter range than the F-15's APG-63. Its situational awareness was often reliant on ground control intercept (GCI) networks, a common Soviet doctrine where ground controllers directed fighters to their targets. The MiG-29's arsenal was also impressive, particularly in the short-range arena. It could carry a variety of air-to-air missiles, including the medium-range R-27, AA-10 Alamo, and the short-range R-60, AA-8 Aphid. Crucially, many MiG-29s were also capable of carrying the R-73, AA-11 Archer, an exceptionally agile infrared-guided missile with a wide off-boresight capability, meaning it could be fired at targets not directly in front of the aircraft. This capability was greatly enhanced by the MiG-29's helmet-mounted sight, allowing pilots to simply look at a target and lock the missile onto it. This combination presented a genuine threat in a visual-range dogfight, potentially giving the Fulcrum an edge in certain close-in scenarios. For absolute last-ditch encounters, a powerful 30mm GSH-30-1 cannon was integrated into its wing root. The Iraqi pilots who flew these machines faced a different set of challenges than their coalition counterparts. While many had experience from the brutal Iran-Iraq War, their training doctrine was heavily influenced by Soviet methods, which often prioritized strict adherence to pre-planned tactics and relied heavily on ground control for tactical decisions. This sometimes stifled individual initiative, a quality highly valued and cultivated by Western air forces. Furthermore, the Iraqi Air Force suffered from issues related to maintenance, spare parts, and consistent high-quality training. Despite these systemic challenges, the pilots themselves were often brave and fiercely proud, committed to defending their homeland. They knew the capabilities of their aircraft and understood the gravity of the aerial battles they were now engaged in. Fear was a constant companion, but so too was a sense of duty and the desire to prove their mettle against a technologically superior foe. The stage for this historic encounter was set against the backdrop of an unforgiving desert morning. January 19, 1991. The air was crisp, the sky a vast, indifferent blue, stretching endlessly over the featureless landscape of southern Iraq. For Captain Cesar Rico Rodriguez, the day began like many others during the war, with a pre-mission briefing that felt both routine and intensely grave. The intelligence officers presented the latest satellite imagery, updated threat assessments, and potential engagement zones. The targets for other packages were discussed, but Rico's primary mission was clear: patrol the designated area, maintain air superiority, and be ready to intercept any hostile aircraft that dared challenge the coalition's dominance. He listened intently, processing every detail, every potential contingency. The quiet anticipation in the briefing room was palpable, a shared understanding of the mortal risks involved. He mentally rehearsed potential scenarios, visualizing radar contacts, missile launches, evasive maneuvers. The F-15's cockpit was a complex symphony of switches, displays, and controls, and he needed to be intimately familiar with every note. His wingman, Captain Craig Hook Underhill, sat beside him, their connection silent but profound, built on countless hours of training and shared trust. In air combat, a wingman wasn't just another pilot. He was your second pair of eyes, your tactical partner, and often your life insurance. After the briefing, the walk to the jets. The raw power of the F-15 Eagles gleaming under the desert sun was a reassuring sight. The ground crew, often overlooked, were the silent heroes, ensuring every system was perfect, every weapon armed and ready. Rico exchanged a brief, focused nod with his crew chief, a silent acknowledgement of their shared mission. Climbing into the cockpit, strapping into the ejection seat, the familiar smells of avionics and jet fuel filled the enclosed space. He went through his pre-flight checks, a methodical sequence of actions born of training and habit. Every switch, every indicator confirmed the readiness of his machine. His wingman, Captain Craig Hook Underhill, sat beside him, their connection silent but profound, built on countless hours of training and shared trust. In air combat, a wingman wasn't just another pilot. He was your second pair of eyes, your tactical partner, and often your life insurance. After the briefing, the walk to the jets. The raw power of the F-15 Eagles gleaming under the desert sun was a reassuring sight. The ground crew, often overlooked, were the silent heroes, ensuring every system was perfect, every weapon armed and ready. Rico exchanged a brief, focused nod with his crew chief, a silent acknowledgement of their shared mission. Climbing into the cockpit, strapping into the ejection seat, the familiar smells of avionics and jet fuel filled the enclosed space. He went through his pre-flight checks, a methodical sequence of actions born of training and habit. Every switch, every indicator confirmed the readiness of his machine. The roar of the engines starting up was a powerful, guttural sound, vibrating through the airframe and into his bones. The F-15 came alive, its systems booting up, displays flickering to life. Communications checks with his wingman and air traffic control were crisp and professional. Taxiing to the runway, the world outside the cockpit became a blur of activity, but inside, Rico's focus narrowed, sharpening to a singular point of purpose. He ran through the final checks, the control surfaces responding smoothly to his touch. Then, the clear for takeoff. With a final, deep breath, he pushed the throttles forward. The F-15 surged down the runway, accelerating with breathtaking speed, the G-forces pressing him back into his seat. The landscape outside blurred, the roar of the engines intensified, and then, with a gentle lift, they were airborne. The desert stretched out below, vast and indifferent. As they climbed higher, leaving the familiar world behind, Rico's senses heightened. He scanned his radar, listened to the comms chatter, his eyes constantly moving, searching, ready. The mission had begun. The tension, ever present, tightened its grip. He was a hunter, now, and the skies above Iraq were his hunting ground. As Rico and Hook ingress into Iraqi airspace, the silence on the frequency is punctuated only by the occasional, reassuring crackle of their own internal comms, confirming positions, fuel, and systems. The F-15s are streaks of silver against the vast blue, moving with deceptive grace at immense speed. Below them, the featureless desert stretches to the horizon, a landscape that offers no hiding place, no quarter. The altitude is immense, the air thin and cold. Inside the cockpit, though, sweat already forms on Rico's brow. This is the quiet before the storm, the calm that precedes the sudden, violent eruption of combat. His eyes are glued to the radar display, a green monochrome screen that represents his window into the invisible world of electromagnetic waves. The AN/APG-63 radar is a powerful tool, sweeping the distant skies, searching for any anomalies, any disturbances that might signify an enemy presence. For minutes, there is nothing, just the reassuring patterns of friendly air traffic carefully deconflicted by ground controllers. Then, a subtle shift. A faint blip, distant and indistinct, appears at the very edge of his radar's reach. It's a fleeting contact, easily dismissed as clutter or an anomaly, but Rico's training kicks in. He zooms in, adjusts the radar's parameters, trying to resolve the faint signature. Hook, I've got a possible contact, 270, 180 miles, faint. Rico's voice is calm, professional, but beneath it, a current of heightened awareness. Roger, checking, Hook responds, his own radar now focused on the indicated bearing. The blip becomes more persistent, not just one, but multiple targets. Their altitude and speed suggest aircraft. The F-15's radar is designed to filter out ground clutter, but in a dynamic environment, misidentification is always a risk. Rico initiates an interrogation, sending out IFF, identification friend or foe signals. There is no response. The targets are not squawking friendly. His heart rate, already elevated, climbs another notch. This is it. This is what they trained for. The Iraqi pilots, meanwhile, are not flying blind. They are operating under the strict guidance of ground-controlled intercept officers who are vectoring them towards the approaching coalition aircraft. This is a classic Soviet-era tactic. Use ground radar to guide fighters into an advantageous position, often a surprise ambush, before allowing them to engage. The Iraqi MiG-29s, perhaps 2 or 4 of them, are flying low, hugging the terrain to avoid detection by the coalition's airborne early warning aircraft and other radar assets. They are attempting to exploit the radar horizon, a physical limitation where targets below a certain altitude disappear from distant radar screens. Their plan is audacious: spring a trap on the high-flying F-15s. Rico's radar system begins to resolve the contacts with greater clarity as the range closes. The blips are no longer vague, they are distinct, moving with purpose. Multiple targets, definitely hostile, he transmits, his voice now carrying an edge of urgency. Looks like 4 bandits, bearing 270, closing.
The F-15's advanced systems begin to project an intercept solution, calculating closure rates and potential engagement envelopes, but something feels off. The way they are positioned, the way they are approaching, it's not a head-on intercept, it's a flank, an attempt to get behind them. Then, the piercing, insistent shriek of his radar warning receiver erupts in his helmet. A spike of pure, unadulterated adrenaline floods his system. It's the sound of being targeted. The electronic warfare suite in his F-15 flashes a visual warning. A specific Iraqi ground-based radar, known to cue MiG-29s, is locking onto them. And then another tone, more insistent, more immediate, an airborne radar lock. A MiG-29 is painting them, preparing for a shot. Foxhole, foxhole, braking right, Rico shouts, instinctively shoving the stick right and stomping on the rudder pedal. The F-15 lurches violently, its powerful engines roaring as he initiates a defensive maneuver, turning hard into the threat. The sudden G-forces press him deep into his seat, momentarily blurring his vision. This is the ambush. They'd walked right into it. The calm professionalism of moments ago is replaced by a primal fight-or-flight response, but one tempered by years of training. His mind races, processing the torrent of information: altitude, speed, closure rate, the exact direction of the threat, the posture of his wingman. Hook, without hesitation, mirrors Rico's brake, responding to the call that means immediate, deadly danger. Their formation, which moments ago was a picture of serene precision, is now shattered, replaced by aggressive, chaotic maneuvers designed to evade potential missile launches and turn the tables on their attackers. The air around them has suddenly become a kill zone, bristling with unseen threats. Multiple inbound contacts, Rico. Looks like 2 from our 10 o'clock high. Hook's voice is strained but clear. He sees them. The Iraqi MiG-29s, having sprung their trap, are now closing rapidly, using their superior numbers and initial positioning to their advantage. The psychological game has begun. Who can achieve the first effective shot? Who can maintain the offensive? And who will succumb to the immense pressure of being targeted? Rico's heart hammers against his ribs. The world shrinks to the confines of his cockpit, the flickering displays, the insistent warnings, and the desperate need to survive. The F-15 is a machine designed for speed and altitude, but its maneuverability at high speeds is also exceptional. Rico throws his aircraft into a series of aggressive turns, trying to defeat the radar lock of the inbound MiGs and create an advantageous position for himself and Hook. The radar warning receiver continues its frantic shriek, a constant reminder of the unseen threats. The digital display shows the approaching missiles, represented by small, ominous triangles, closing in rapidly. He releases chaff and flares, bundles of radar-reflective material and super-hot magnesium in an attempt to spoof the incoming radar-guided and infrared-guided missiles. Chaff, flares, defend, Rico barks, pulling another gut-wrenching turn, his body feeling like it's being crushed under the immense G-forces. His vision tunnels, the edges of his sight blurring to a grayout, but he fights it, focusing on the instruments on the enemy's projected trajectory. He can hear the heavy, labored breathing of his wingmen over the comms, a shared symphony of terror and determination. From the Iraqi cockpits, the situation is equally intense. The MiG-29 pilots, operating under the rigid doctrine of their ground controllers, believe they have the advantage. They have achieved a radar lock, and their R-27, AA-10 Alamo, medium-range, semi-active radar-guided weapons are now streaking towards the F-15s. They are focused on achieving the kill, confident in their surprise attack. The adrenaline pumping through their veins is as potent as Rico's, mixed with the fierce pride of engaging the much-vaunted American Eagles. They maneuver, trying to maintain their radar lock, hoping their missiles will find their targets before the F-15s can respond. Rico pulls hard, braking violently, bleeding off speed, doing everything he can to deny the R-27s a clear shot. The R-27, while a capable missile, has known limitations, particularly against highly maneuvering targets at its maximum range. He feels the thud, thud, thud of defensive flares being dispensed, the bright, scorching heat blooming behind his jet, designed to draw away any heat-seeking missiles. The chaff forms a cloud of metallic strips, a false target for radar-guided missiles. Suddenly, a flash of light in his peripheral vision, a streak of smoke. Missile away, inbound, Hook shouts, his voice tight with urgency.
Rico reacts purely on instinct, a deep, ingrained response. He rolls inverted, pulls back on the stick, and dives hard, wrenching his F-15 into a desperate corkscrew maneuver, breaking the missile's tracking solution. The G-forces are immense, crushing him, but he holds on, his body protesting violently against the strain. Then, an explosion, not close enough to damage him, but close enough to be a stark reminder of the deadly precision of their adversaries. A brief, terrifying flash of light, followed by the silent expansion of white smoke. The missile had detonated, but not on his aircraft. He had survived. A fleeting moment of relief, immediately replaced by renewed focus. He has no time to dwell. Cleared the shot, Hook? Rico demands, trying to catch his breath, his voice slightly hoarse. Affirmative. Missed. Barely. You're clear too, Rico. Hook's reply brings a wave of shared, desperate triumph. But the fight is far from over. The Iraqi MiGs are still there, still aggressive. Having fired their initial BVR missiles, they are now closing, transitioning from beyond visual range combat to the terrifying intimacy of a dogfight. Bandits closing fast. Visual 11 o'clock high, Hook yells. Rico snaps his head left, searching the sky. And there they are, two MiG-29s, distinctive with their twin tails and broad, powerful rings, silhouetted against the bright sky. They are turning hard, trying to get into position for a close-range missile shot or a gun pass. The F-15's radar now shows them clearly, their positions unambiguous. The radar warning receiver now screams with the tones of the MiG-29's short-range R-73 missile lock, a far more deadly and agile weapon up close. Rico's brain, under immense stress, enters a hyper-focused state. The world outside the cockpit melts away. All that exists is the F-15, the MiGs, and the intricate, deadly geometry of air combat. He has to turn the tables, from defensive to offensive. Tally 2, engaging, he calls out, pushing the F-15's nose up, pulling hard on the stick. The Eagle, with its immense power, responds instantly, clawing its way upwards, gaining precious altitude and energy, denying the MiGs the low speed, high angle of attack fight they prefer. He sees one of the MiGs break hard, trying to get on his 6. Rico counterturns, using the F-15's superior energy retention to stay out of the enemy's firing solution. The battle descends into a frantic, three-dimensional chess match, where every move, every turn, every acceleration or deceleration has immediate, potentially fatal consequences. The sheer physical exertion is immense. His flight suit is soaked with sweat, his muscles screaming under the G-loads. His eyes, though strained, miss nothing, darting from the MiGs in his peripheral vision to the HUD, head-up display, tracking critical flight data to the radar display for overall situational awareness. Going for a shot, Rico, splash 1, Hook's voice bursts through the comms, a triumphant roar. A fleeting glance confirms it. One of the MiGs, previously threatening Hook, is now trailing smoke, its trajectory erratic. Hook has fired an AIM-9 Sidewinder, its heat-seeking seeker head locking on to the MiG's hot exhaust. The immediate danger for Hook is averted. This moment of success gives Rico a crucial opening. He has been maneuvering defensively, bleeding energy, but now he sees his chance. One of the remaining MiGs, having focused on Hook, is now momentarily exposed, its turn rate decreasing, its energy bleeding. It's still highly maneuverable, but Rico sees a weakness. He pushes the F-15, its engines screaming, driving it into a high-speed pass, vectoring for an AIM-7 Sparrow shot. He needs range, a clean lock, and a steady shot. The radar blares, a high-pitched tone indicating a solid lock. He presses the weapon release button. Fox 1, he shouts, a mixture of intense concentration and raw aggression in his voice. The AIM Sparrow launches with a whoosh of smoke and fire, streaking away from the F-15 towards its unsuspecting target. The semi-active radar-guided missile needs continuous illumination from Rico's radar. He must keep his nose pointed at the target, maintaining the lock, even as the MiG begins its frantic evasive maneuvers dispensing chaff. The seconds stretch into an eternity. Rico holds his breath, his hand gripped tight on the stick, his eyes fixed on the MiG and the progress of his missile. The MiG weaves, jinks, trying everything to break the lock, to defeat the inbound threat. But the Sparrow is fast, relentless. It closes the distance. A bright flash, a sudden, violent eruption of debris. Splash 2, Rico exclaims, the release of tension almost overwhelming. One less bandit. The threat level drops, but 2 MiGs still remain, lurking somewhere in the vastness. The remaining Iraqi pilots, witnessing the destruction of their comrades, are now in a precarious position. Their ambush has failed, their numerical superiority is gone. Their initial advantage has been nullified by the F-15's superior technology, pilot skill, and aggressive countertactics. The initial confidence is replaced by a desperate struggle for survival. They know they are outmatched, but they are not yet defeated. Their training dictates that they continue to fight, to inflict as much damage as possible, or at least escape to fight another day. One of the surviving MiGs, perhaps sensing its vulnerability, attempts a desperate maneuver, trying to dive for the deck, hoping to use the ground clutter to escape Rico's radar. But the F-15's radar, with its advanced look-down capability, can still track it. Rico isn't letting him go. He is now firmly on the offensive, the hunter rather than the hunted. He pushes his F-15 into a relentless pursuit, driving it to its limits. The physical toll of the engagement is immense. Rico's body aches from the G-forces, his head pounds, his throat is raw from shouting. But the adrenaline still courses through him, keeping his senses sharp, his focus absolute. He is operating on pure instinct, years of training training manifesting as seamless, immediate reactions. He locks on to the diving MiG. This time he opts for an AIM-9 Sidewinder. The range is closing and the heat signature of the MiG's engines is clear. The distinct growl of the Sidewinder's seeker head, a high-pitched whine that signifies a solid heat lock, echoes in his helmet. Fox 2! Fox 2! The Sidewinder hisses off the rail, a slender, smoke-trailing arrow of death. It guides unerringly towards the MiG, its infrared seeker head locked onto the enemy's exhaust plume. The Iraqi pilot, seeing the inbound missile, attempts a violent defensive maneuver, deploying flares. But the Sparrow is too close, too agile. It's a point-blank shot. The missile impacts, tearing into the MiG-29 with devastating force. A fireball erupts, briefly illuminating the desert sky, followed by a shower of disintegrating debris. Splash 3, Rico reports, the words now carrying a mix of exhaustion and grim satisfaction. Only one MiG remains. Its pilot, having witnessed the destruction of 3 of his squadron mates, now understands the futility of further engagement. He is alone, outmatched, and hunted. His only option is to escape. He turns away, abandoning the fight, plunging towards the sanctuary of lower altitudes and the distant unseen border. Rico and Hook pursue for a short distance, ensuring the last MiG is truly disengaging and not attempting another ambush. Their radar screens show it retreating, rapidly diminishing in size and signal strength. The threat is gone. The sky is suddenly eerily silent, save for the hum of their own engines and the distant crackle of radio static. The intense, deafening chaos of moments ago has vanished, replaced by a profound, almost unsettling quiet. The physiological and psychological impact of such an engagement is immediate and profound. As the adrenaline begins to recede, a wave of exhaustion washes over Rico. His muscles ache, his head throbs, and his hands, which had gripped the controls with such fierce determination, now feel slightly shaky. He takes deep, ragged breaths, trying to steady himself, to calm the frantic beating of his heart. The taste of copper is in his mouth. He is alive. He survived. But the cost, the act of taking lives, weighs heavily. It's not a moment for celebration, but for quiet, somber reflection. Hook, you good? Rico asks, his voice still a little strained. Yeah, Rico, good. You?
Hook replies, his voice reflecting a similar mix of relief and exhaustion. Hell of a fight. Affirmative, Rico breathes. Hell of a fight. The long flight home is a period of decompression. The F-15s, no longer the hunters, now turn back towards friendly airspace, their mission accomplished, their victories confirmed. Rico stares out at the endless desert below, which seems to stretch on forever, unmarked by the furious, deadly ballet that had just unfolded thousands of feet above it. He thinks of the Iraqi pilots, their faces unseen, their lives abruptly ended. He feels no hatred, only a profound sense of the tragedy of war and the stark reality of his role within it. He was a soldier, tasked with a job, and he had performed it with skill and courage. But the weight of that responsibility, the finality of his actions, never truly leaves a pilot. Upon landing, the ground crew are there, waiting. Their cheers and relieved expressions are a testament to the dangers they know the pilots faced. Rico climbs out of the cockpit, his legs stiff, his body tired. He exchanges a brief, knowing glance with Hook. No words are necessary. They had faced death together and emerged victorious. The debriefing that follows is a methodical process of recounting every detail of the engagement, piecing together the events, validating kills, and analyzing tactics. Every missile launch, every maneuver, every radio call is scrutinized. It's a critical part of learning and refining air combat doctrine. The impact of this engagement, and others like it, on the wider air war was significant. The decisive victory of the F-15s over the MiG-29s, widely considered one of the most capable Soviet-designed fighters, sent a powerful message. It validated the technological superiority of Western aircraft and the effectiveness of American pilot training and tactics. It demoralized the Iraqi Air Force, effectively crushing their will to engage coalition fighters head-on. As the war progressed, Iraqi aircraft became increasingly reluctant to challenge coalition air patrols, often choosing to flee or seek sanctuary in neighboring countries. The skies over Iraq belonged to the coalition, a crucial factor in the swift and decisive ground campaign that followed. The MiG-29 versus F-15 story is far more than just an air battle. It was a poignant chapter in the long-standing technological rivalry between East and West, a real-world proving ground for decades of design, engineering, and tactical development. The F-15's performance in Desert Storm cemented its reputation as arguably the greatest air superiority fighter of its generation, while the MiG-29, despite its impressive design and capabilities, was hampered by a combination of operational limitations, rigid doctrine, and ultimately, the overwhelming technological and training advantage of its adversaries. But beyond the technological implications, this encounter is a profound testament to the human element of air combat. It highlights the indispensable role of pilot skill, the relentless grind of training, and the sheer courage required to operate at the razor's edge of human and machine performance. Cesar, Rico Rodriguez, on January 19, 1991, were not just a display of piloting prowess. They were a vivid demonstration of the human capacity for resilience, split-second decision-making, and an unwavering commitment to mission and self-preservation in the face of absolute peril. Modern air warfare, as demonstrated in Desert Storm, transformed the landscape of combat. It was no longer solely about close-range dogfights, though these still occurred, often with terrifying intensity.
It was also about radar, avionics, electronic warfare, and the strategic deployment of air assets. Yet even with all the technology, the final arbiter remained the human being in the cockpit. Their judgment, their training, their ability to adapt to fluid and deadly situations remained paramount. The legacy of the F-15 Eagle in Desert Storm, and particularly its encounters with the MiG-29, continues to be studied and analyzed by air forces around the world. It offers invaluable lessons in air combat tactics, aircraft design, and pilot training methodologies. It underscores the importance of a holistic approach to air power, where superior technology is seamlessly integrated with highly skilled personnel and effective doctrine. If you love air combat history, the story of MiG-29 vs F-15 in the Gulf War is an essential deep dive. It's an iconic dogfight that encapsulates the drama, the technology, and the raw human courage of Operation Desert Storm. It is a stark reminder of the realities of modern air warfare, where the fate of nations can often hang on the split-second decisions of a lone pilot, thousands of feet above the earth, engaged in a silent, deadly ballet with an unseen adversary. It is a story that resonates with every aspect of the initial prompt, focusing on the emotions of the soldier in war. For in Rico's cockpit, the fear, the focus, the determination, and the ultimate somber weight of victory were all profoundly human. His story, and the story of those he faced, is a timeless narrative of courage in the face of ultimate danger, a testament to those who fly.